Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We will begin this afternoon version of the 527 Lake County Board of County Commissioners work session meeting thing.
Well, I am Liz Miller and I am the Operations Director. And today I'd like to talk to you about our IT program that we have here at Lake County Government. So we're going to talk a little bit about how much it costs to run the IT program, how those costs are broken into different categories, what we're doing within the IT program, and what we want to do in the IT program. So first, what do you think are the core operating costs associated with IT for Lake County government?
Records holding.
Costs.
Oh, like how much they cost?
Yeah.
I thought you meant what are the core.
So for all of our core services, so everything excluding people, for our hardware, for our software, utilities, subscriptions, mouses, keyboards.
Per year.
Per year.
Electricity?
I didn't include electricity,
Okay.
but that's a good one.
Well, I was gonna go subscriptions, but
$150.
$150?
$150,000.
$150,000. Andy,
oh, what is our budget? What is our
let's just guess,
requirement?
just a guess without going over. This is the Price is Right.
Without going over?
Yeah.
$125.
Ooh, you can stay at 150.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I mean, before even that, I was gonna say, I wanted to say 350, so I'll say 325.
Stay at 350. Matt,
What are we doing?
Price is Right without going over. What does it cost?
$100,000.
No, baby,
Oh,
you're not
okay.
listening.
Okay.
Okay.
Chris, Candace, would you like to positively contribute to this riveting game where we have all drastically under
She
budget?
probably would know better than that.
$525.
Ooh, stay there.
What do you consider the core operating costs?
So
Everything
this
for
is
people.
hardware, software, managed service providers, utilities, which I'm gonna count as internet,
The only way to do
phones.
this fairly would have been to write it down.
I'm gonna
No.
say if we put everything in the IT budget where it should be, just shy of a
Always
mil.
a part.
Oh, just shy of a mil. So Candace is talking about the future. But ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Elsa. She did not go over. So when I took the numbers for last year and then projecting into this year, we are gonna spend $539,000.
Okay, tell us more about what that is.
Oh, I would love to tell you more about what that is.
Thank you.
So, these are the large categories, not including personnel, that make up IT costs.
Yeah.
Who's Lance? Do we
Nobody
know? Oh, he's the pool man. We're gonna,
We tell, hey Lance.
More?
Hey Lance, just an FYI, we have an agenda item first that's talking about our IT, and you can come back closer to 2 Mountain Standard Time to talk about the pool if you don't wanna stay here.
cool. Alright, so these are the large categories. Telecommunications is our largest one because internet is expensive. So one of the things that we've been doing IT is trying to aggregate all of our internet services into the same plans, same terms, and coming out of one budget. So unfortunately, we do not have the service coverage to go under one provider. So we do get internet from Spectrum, Charter, Lumen, CenturyLink, Verizon, and Vero. But we are very hopeful that in the future we can all be under Vero as they add more locations, spaces, and places to their
So
coverage.
much cheaper.
Yo, can we just pause for a second?
Yeah.
With 100, say just 150, cause the math is easier.
Mhm.
Just 150, staff, like we could pay for just individual internet for every single one of them and still be underneath that
So
235.
So this is internet, cell phones, landlines,
Oh, got it, okay.
faxes, and everything.
Oh, faxes, we still do that.
We sure do.
Oh
So
my
human
God.
services, but in public health, because there's certain
Talk about 80s nostalgia.
data
what are we doing?
restriction. I
Yeah.
tried to get them on like an internet service provider for fax, and they're like,
Yeah.
no, we will stay dinosaurs. Fair. So in telecommunications, what you're talking about, when we get staff cell phones, so they have
Yeah.
unlimited data, unlimited cell phones, we
Yeah.
pay about $80K a year for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's only $500.
I don't need
Per
unlimited data
person.
on my phone. You can downgrade my plan.
Sometimes it's cheaper. Whatever. The point is that that's only $500 per person, and that's cheaper than what I pay
I think that as we continue to aggregate lines under IT, understand better who has what, how we're using it,
Yeah.
we can make some educated choices.
Great.
You know, folks largely should be using their work phones at work, they can connect to the network here, they don't need data.
Yeah.
As we're improving our internet services with higher speeds and access points, does everybody need a hotspot on their phone too? Cause we have a lot of folks that have that turned on as well. DHS Human Services 735 is a challenging space to get them the tools that they need.
Sure.
So there's room to play in there. Do all staff need a cell phone, or when do you come on board, we activate your licenses for soft calling, so you can dial in and out on your computer? We have options to explore.
Port numbers onto your.
Yep.
Personal phone.
Well, I think we want it, I know that I got really frustrated at past positions when I was expected to use my personal cell phone for work activities. When I got a stipend, I was like, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to think about, but we have a lot of options as we understand. I do think we can decrease it, I don't think we can decrease it a lot in that category.
Also because at core, right, you don't really
Sure,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
use personal phones, be it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
See a lot of cat pictures in my phone, people would have questions. So in software right here,
What about Starlink?
so Starlink, we are actually exploring that as an option for one of our locations. So everything is more expensive when you use an enterprise solution rather than a personal solution. And we have to use business or enterprise because of licensing. But Starlink, the physical unit that we need is about $250, and then the monthly subscription is $168. That's what we're looking for at the landfill right now, because we don't have an internet service provider and ISP that goes there with a strong enough connection. But places in town, like the courthouse, we should be on Vero, Annex should be on Vero, Public Works is on Vero, iScanning Rink is on Vero, Senior Center is on Vero. And I just wanna say, I think this is the first time we've had a holistic look at how much it costs, because Senior Center wasn't a part of the aggregate IT utilities pool until a couple months ago. Same thing with the Senior Center. We had some really creative solutions of like beams and wires and antennas that no one really understood, supplying a lot of our locations. We went ahead and got them their dedicated lines. So we've cleaned up a lot, but we have increased, but we need to do that as a resource and service provider for the people of Lake County. So in software, this is another area that we're trying to pull things in and having it centralized through IT. So when we talk about the core software that we offer all of our staff, it's gonna be the Microsoft Office suite, so it's Outlook email, Teams, Word, Excel, all of that. What we also offer staff is Adobe, so Adobe Acrobat Pro, a lot of folks need that to have the functions to edit PDFs or convert to PDFs or change file formats. We also have some small softwares like Bitly, ServiceMonkey, Canva, all of that is incorporated into one space. So what we're thinking as we go forward, moving all of softwares underneath IT, so we can really understand that menu. And if there is an option for a software to be utilized by another department in a different way, we really have that in one space in place for everyone to know about it. So, our favorite software, does anyone know the name of that software?
Tyler?
Is probably gonna come over to the IT budget. Again, so we have that centralized hub and we can really manage it and understand what's going on there.
Nice.
So, things get more expensive every year, right?
Just.
Yeah. Microsoft raised their prices by 11% this April. We have no other choice. They are the provider and the premier for word processing, presentation software, all of that. So again, when we think about software, that's the face you should be making. There's always gonna be a price increase that happens eventually. Yes, ma'am.
I was like, what about like Google? Well, Google, they're perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, so
products.
I think that it is worth exploring a future on Google. Candace already brought it up.
Okay.
Very excited about that.
Thank you for having brought it up.
Why?
I do not. It would be we could do it, it's not gonna happen tomorrow, we would need
Yeah.
some planning, we would have to duplicate services for a while and shadow them and then move it over.
Sure.
And then just as a computer user, like Microsoft Word is a higher product than
Sure.
Google Docs. So, but I think that we use the tools that are gonna be successful for people. And it's something that we can look at once Justin and I just like swallow it a little bit more and we can move forward with planning on that. So if we wanna look at Google as our solution, so that would be we'd be working in the workspace, so Google Docs, Google Sheets, what's their presentation one? Google Slides, and then we'd be moving to Gmail. Could be done. We need some planning and some movement to get there,
Sure.
not the moment to do it. The seed has been planted.
Their calendars are amazing.
Can we get like an estimation on how much we'd save?
So we could, and so when we talk about saving money, it's always gonna cost more in the beginning
Sure.
to save the money, and so that's that redundancy, that's that project time.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna show you a kind of menu of everything that we're working on and what is the most important right now and most relevant and most urgent for us to work on, and then what's our next phase. But Justin and I will start looking at Google.
Oh, sorry, honey.
Thank you, I need sympathy.
I do think there are some things we would have to still have some modicum of Microsoft where like finance is always gonna need Excel.
Yeah.
I mean, you just
No,
did
that
it
makes
this
perfect
way,
sense.
you know, but I think we could.
I think.
Plus they're convertible, like if you're, the basic stuff that you're doing for like department heads or even whatever,
Yeah,
they're convertible.
Yeah, it crosswalks, the platforms are made to do that, you know, and I would say for the majority of our users at Lake County government, the Google Creative Suite or our work suite is gonna serve 86% of them.
94, girl.
92?
Alright, I'll meet you there,
Oh.
I'll meet you there. It's just, I just feel like I've watched the Google product really improve, especially in the last 10 years, to be just like what most people need, and it's so, Microsoft feels so analog. Yes, you've got a lot more you can do with it, it just feels more analog when you use it, and when you work with other people outside of this agency, and they're sending you a blah blah blah,
You're not wrong, it's
I
like,
know I'm not,
you're not wrong, I'm just like
I know, I
taking
see
all
it.
this in and processing it.
Deep breaths, babe, deep breaths. Yeah.
I have worked really hard, cause when I came in, the environment that we were on was Microsoft, to getting people using it and really leveraging it.
Yeah.
And so it's, now we're moving a different way, most likely, which is fine. But then we also have to think about our user and training in pieces and parts, which is all obtainable, all doable.
Yeah.
We just really need to figure out if the pricing is right, do we get that relief that we're not gonna get from Microsoft?
Right.
And then make sure that we have the implementation, so all users can be successful with what we want them to do with it.
Yeah.
Cause I've done a lot of Microsoft training. So that's what we're looking at with software at this 66. So right here, hardware, I gave Lake County government a budget of 30,000 for hardware.
Wow.
So that's gonna be laptops, desktops, mouses, keyboards, servers, beams, all of that stuff. Honestly,
It's tiny.
30,000 is pretty low.
Yeah.
It's pretty low, and one of the repeated themes that we talk about is that deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
Our IT is deferred maintenance, so, yeah.
I remember Andy's computer.
This computer was deferred maintenance, and it was 5 pieces of deferred maintenance put together to see how much longer we could make it last.
Okay.
We shocked it, just a little bit.
With the defibrillator.
Yeah. So what's the right choice for hardware? Is it to start doing some capital requests, investments that are $5,000 or more that are gonna last a year? Maybe, probably, but we need to have a really good plan for what our replacement is, for what hardware is still alive, what its lifespan is gonna be, what's under warranty, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But that is low.
I thought we would have $30,000 in HDMI cables.
We probably do somewhere.
Is I don't wanna jump the gun, but are we gonna talk about the IT asset management plan?
So we are.
Thank you, I will not.
So the other category is just those little things that fall in there, little mix of hardware, little mix of software, little mix of cybersecurity. So it's not a huge category. And then the other really big one that I kind of want to hit home on today is this managed service provider. So right now, Lake County government is under a managed service provider, the majority of the county, with Applied Tech. I would genuinely say it has been a great partnership. You know, when the whole internet goes down and it's showing that we are dangerous internally and externally with people entering our site, having someone to call is just beyond reassuring, and having someone to work on it. Someone to be a coach, someone to be a guide, it's been fantastic. So I really like our engagement with Applied Tech. We are on a 36-month term. In January, we will be 1 year down. I've been very clear and upfront with them. I wanna start reducing our service level every year that we can. Once we get to our 36-month term, we are no longer contractually obligated. We just need 1 month's notice to terminate, or we can renegotiate at a lower level of service.
Will it be another 36-month term, or can we go into shorter intervals?
I'm not really sure on that part, but we are kind of like on a create your own plan, and it's funny because our rep is like, I've never seen anyone in a plan like this, and I'm like, don't tell anyone. But it's been just a really important tool for us as we kind of figure out what is going on with IT and as we develop a program. So I wanna dig into this managed service provider a little bit more, cause I got it broken down. So Applied Tech is what the majority of the county is on. This is about 90 users right there. I believe we paid $93.25 per seat. So I would say any of our knowledge workers with a laptop with an Office 365 suite are covered under this.
What's us?
That's us. Iron Edge is the sheriff's office. This is their managed service provider.
Okay.
I have been talking to Heath, kind of like what the future is. How can we roll the sheriff's office into our support? So this is about 90 people.
Yeah,
Guess how many people work in the sheriff's office?
18,
A little bit more.
27.
We'll hit it there. If you went over, you know, we'd have to stop and start again.
I know.
So I think you can see that these numbers just, ugh.
Yeah.
So this is our best place to go forward to kind of acquire and reduce
Yeah,
a managed service provider.
why are they, is this the holdover from Sheriff Reyes?
Yeah, Sheriff Reyes, yeah.
When she went into, when she created her own server and situation and all that?
He, I don't know, I've been talking to him for about 6 months, like what it would look like, what it would cost, what we would need as resources, cause when you take on more humans that have needs, wants and desires, and oh gosh, this isn't working, you need another human to support and take care of that.
Yeah.
Even if you have a managed service provider.
Yeah.
So, the thing I think we're first gonna do is take over their Microsoft environment and go ahead and have us manage it. Cause that's a huge part of the cost, we're already doing that, it's not super hard. They are on a month to month with Iron Edge as well.
Oh, easy.
Then we're gonna take over another thing, like, Iron Edge manages their access points, those things up there that push internet signal out. So we're gonna start picking up things, taking it off until we have that full roll in.
That's just month to month, so then as soon as it's done, it's done.
Yep.
That's awesome.
But it's still a lot of work. You may think Lake County government IT is messy. Lake County Sheriff's IT is even messier. And they don't have an actual human on site to provide any of that support. They're calling people in Grand Junction who may come, and when there's an issue, the people in Grand Junction call us. So I think that's also a real challenge with a managed service provider and having on-site staff. It's this really weird balance of like, yes, we're gonna help you, but we can't help you that much because we don't have access to any of your systems and they're not ours. So we have some additional managed service providers with IT. This right here, Astonish, goes with Human Services. It's basically nothing because it's subsidized by the state. And they're required to have it, so we don't care about that one. Marmot is the library consortium that the library's a part of. So this is actually much bigger, but just for IT, the library pays $8,000 annually. Brenna, when I chatted her about it, she's like, why can you take us back? And I was like, we'll be able to. She's like, that's 30 computers, can you do it? And I'm like, soon. So Brenna's okay with rolling into us too, we just have to be able to do it. These are all annual costs. I did include technology as West as well. So far this year, it's been 4,200. I don't know what the continued engagement is gonna be, but that's just something to think about in the formula of a managed service provider.
How long is the sheriff's department integration? How much? Just a ballpark draft schedule. What do you think?
So it's challenging.
Yeah.
So there's E911.
Yeah.
E911 also wants to be supported by Lake County government. I am, right now, sheriff's offer, yeah, let's go. We're already doing all that for us. I would say in 6 months, we could have them roll over and everything would be working really, really well. E911 is separate. It's that intergovernmental partnership with multiple agencies and it's dispatch.
Yeah.
It is specialized technology
Yeah.
that they don't even know how to use. So we would really have to figure that out. Sheriff's
that's-
office, yes, E911, ugh.
And that's Iron Edge too? Okay.
And kind of us, cause it's,
Right. But under the Iron Edge contract.
yes, the E911 IGA, there's a provision of it that 15K is paid to Lake County government for finance, IT, and human services support.
Okay.
It's squishy, that's also something to really look at, to really understand that if we're gonna take that responsibility, the IT that we would be taking to support E911 would be more than 15K, so that's also floating in there. But I wanna take bite-sized chunks that we can be successful, build trust, and not start a literal or figurative fire.
So, I'm sorry, it's the 15,000 from the IGA. That's where that's coming from?
Yes.
Okay,
But it just kinda goes somewhere.
We're here now. We're
You
We're
just
gonna
did
get
Tim
it.
face.
Tim face.
No, I remember when the first time I saw Lauren do it, and then Candace was like,
Oh yeah, and he used to like do something weird with his lips. Lean back a little bit.
Holding the words.
yeah, like just.
Is that what that is?
So I kinda wanna talk about the projects that we have on our plate for 2025. So Elsa, you brought this up, asset collection, we wanna inventory all existing hardware. Where is it? How is it configured? And is it working?
How old is it? How much does it cost?
Let me
How
show
much would it cost to
you.
replace it?
I wasn't gonna put this in here, but you asked. So please hold. Right now, we're kind of at laptops. We've created different tiers of what laptop, ooh, gotta chat this over here. Alright. So I would say we're about 3/4 of the way done with just laptop-ishness, and desktop.
Do you mind sort of seeing who's chatting, just in case
Oh,
it's somebody
that was
who-
me. Oh, shoot, there's chat here. Oh,
Okay.
cool. So we have people's devices in here. And as you can see, we've kind of created a status. It's in its prime.
Cool.
Andy, you're in your prime. We have ones that are doing good, we have ones that are fine. We have some midlife crises. We have some slowing down and we have some reeling in the years like, oh gosh.
Keep Steely, Dan.
I love it.
Like I said, this is just like our starting point to think about it. We have the prices over here,
Yeah.
just so we know. But this isn't all of the devices here at Lake County government.
No.
So again, it's that really comprehensive, but this is where we're going.
Yeah.
So we can see these ones here and be like, okay, yeah, these need to be replaced and we know we're not replacing it for 200, cause our ones that are good to go, we could probably get away for 1,000.
Who
Is
gets a
that-
MacBook?
Oh, don't look at Chris.
Yeah, sorry, came in with all Apple stuff.
And if I didn't known that was an option.
So we have
Sheesh.
three,
We talked about it, remember?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
you
did.
could have one.
with me. So we do have 3 seats that have an Apple assigned to them, and that's just because the type of work they're doing.
Yeah.
So like Sammy, who's doing video processing, we had her on a PC, but after it crashed 10 times, we're like, please take this MacBook. And then Adam over at the tourism panel and also the tourism and economic development department, he's on a Mac, Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So we want to give people machines that have enough processing power and longevity that they're just worth it.
Yeah, in my case, it's not really worth the extra cost for me to just
Yeah.
type up Word documents, but all my other endeavors, definitely.
What about, so when you list computer price, it's like trade-in value? Is that what you're,
Replacement value?
This is,
it's definitely not replacement value.
this was about the price that it is right now.
And I'm
so
looking
like
at the
this-
bottom,
It's worth about $200.
yeah, it's trade-in value, is what you mean.
No, it's worth about $200. We could try to trade it in, but it'd be about $60.
But I guess what's the point of listing it as a $200 computer when the price of replacing it will not be $200?
You know, we let Justin work through what he needs to work through.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
draft, it's draft, I'm just wondering where
You
the
know,
like,
You're absolutely right, and I think that was just kind of like a helpful tool to see where our computers are listed at. It's also a descriptive tool that we know that a $200 computer really isn't functioning right now.
Yeah,
But-
an extra column of like, right next to current computer value is replacement cost.
well, and I guess is it, 2 questions?
Yeah.
One question, one statement. Is this the new software,
Oh, this is the front face of our table, yeah.
the new stuff that we got that's also doing the ticketing
Yeah.
processing? Sweet. Okay, so my statement about an asset management plan is that it's valuable to me in like depreciation and then also in terms of scheduling out how to budget for those replacements by when.
Yes.
So that's really what I was looking for, and if this is just draft, Liz, and like it's gonna get there, you just tell me that and I can wait.
Yeah, so this is draft and we're gonna get there, so we need to include larger pieces of hardware, we need to include our firewalls, we need to include our servers, we need to include our access points, all of that. So this is kind of us playing around with what information we need to collect, how we're gonna organize it, so that we can say, okay, going into 2026, baseline, we need to spend X amount.
Yeah.
Dream would be spend this amount, so that we can be on a kind of a sustainable number each year for a successful replacement cycle and asset management.
Right, cause when we are looking at the budget and looking at people's 10-year
Yeah.
plans, we wanna be able to see our asset, like that's gonna be the biggest hope to like combat the depreciation of this county.
Yeah.
Is to be able to see it.
And I also so the finance policies say that you need to go through IT to purchase any hardware or software. We really wanna strengthen that so that we are having folks buy like X tier of device. Cause you can buy the cheapest device out there and you can save $600, but it's just not gonna have the lifespan that we want for the value.
Yeah.
So these are all things that we're really trying to be very thoughtful and intentional about and slightly terrified, just to be clear, terrified.
So you're saying stay with facts as long as you can? Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Alright, let me. Go back. So, asset collection and then replacement cycle. So I know that we are gonna have these pretty good in we're gonna have these going into the 3rd quarter so that we can make the IT hardware budget for the county and pull that out of departments. So network infrastructure, how do we make sure that computers are connecting the right way, and we're having enough speeds on our internet? As you know, we just went through our big upgrade on internet, we did firewall improvements, and honestly, nothing broke, which was the most exciting thing that's ever happened in my life. So the next thing we wanna do is the server room cleanup. I don't know if you've been in the server room, but it looks like spaghetti with all the cables. So we wanna go ahead and clean it up, Lake County government, sheriff's office, clerk and recorder's office. So we know whose tech is what, we can inventory our iDRACs and all of the fun stuff that lives in there to know exactly what we have in its lifespan. And then we wanna get all the cables the right length.
Is there any foreseeable situation with that. That's like the paving the road right before we need to dig it all up again with the server room and then having to reconfigure the sheriff's department server rooms.
I think, so yes, but no, but there's so many unknowns. Like, I can't find any firewalls for the sheriff's office, not saying that there's not any. So is all of their service going downstream from our firewall? Is it?
Oh my god.
Is it? So we need to know those things, I think, before we can absorb, because that's gonna be just additional costs and additional setup.
My very limited understanding of this, that's really bad.
Yeah, how's that not a stop fix?
Well, cause they could be going through ours.
It could be.
It could be going through ours,
But if
well,
we
they're
don't
not ours.
know,
They're not my IT,
So you don't know.
so I don't know.
But it's,
Yeah,
but
so,
that'll land on us,
does our,
cause it is our,
yes,
does our
Yes.
cyber insurance people know about that?
Oh, what? Cybersecurity's next. Y'all are so good at this. So no, it's just something that we need to learn and know, but it's also diplomatically understanding purview and entering someone else's like territory, right? Because we're not authorized people on the sheriff's office account at Iron Edge.
Iron Eagle,
Iron
cyber.
Edge.
yeah.
So I can't call Iron Edge and be like,
You're
hey
talking about 80s
guys,
stuff
tell
too
me
much.
stuff and things.
But we can,
Are you an authorized user? Cause they won't.
but will he just let you call? Because I mean,
He probably will. It's just such a money situation. When I talked to like the Fortinet people, they told me all of the sheriff's office firewalls were expiring. Talked to Heath and he's like, oh, that's wild. So it's just, we need really tight collaboration, coordination, and understanding of the IT. Heath's gonna give it. We're there.
right,
We just have to figure it out. And nobody knows. And we have segmented, separate information that's not building an IT program and one successful program.
Alright, so it's on the radar, we're just figuring it out at the blazing speed of government.
it just feels really urgent to me because that's such a,
They would be going through ours, so regardless, there is a firewall.
there's at least one.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, sorry.
yeah, so
I
it's
thought there was
like downstream. If they are just plugged into the wall, oh,
yeah,
that's terrifying.
okay, thank you.
Cause they have another server room downstairs.
Like 3, don't they? They got like server closets all
They
over the
have
building.
another server room downstairs. How's it connected to this server room? We're gonna be getting headlamps and going in the walls like the squirrels. Really excited.
Cool.
So we just gotta improve organization, and that's the big thing there. So cybersecurity is a big thing. I don't know if y'all have fallen victim to a phishing scheme yet, clicked on something, answered an email.
Not yet.
They are rampant within the county. We get so many of them. It's just really wild. I've never worked in an organization that it's just every day, someone's like, here's a phishing, here's a spoofing, here's this.
It's usually.
I've gotten them, but
It is Candace.
I tried to download something the other day
yeah,
and
do we,
it said you're not
Why?
allowed to. So good job.
do
you.
we ever send out like our own to employees to see if we can get them to fall for them as
Could
part of
you
like a
please-
training?
Could you please follow that outline? Both
Sorry,
of you keep stealing my thunder.
oh,
Jeez. So we'll go down to penetration testing.
Oh, okay.
But yes, we are gonna start doing some penetration testing.
my
That
bad,
is the term.
I'm
Thank
out
you.
of order.
But right now, the first thing we're doing is multi-factor authentication. Has Justin got y'all going on those yet?
Not yet.
It is the most
yes.
annoying thing, but having
I was
MFA,
first. He was like, everyone's gonna hate this, but I'm gonna set it up on your new computer now and we will get it started very soon.
so MFA gives us
For
access to $1
insurance.
million in cybersecurity insurance. We were at $250,000. So I'm excited that we can add that kind of to our repertoire of protection.
Mhm.
We're working on DNS security, so
What is DNS?
yeah, so it's basically internet filtering type stuff. It's super annoying because I tried to go to the Copiness Cafe, the Capybara Cafe in Japan, just to look at it while I was busy at work, and Justin blocked it. So it's just an extra layer of filtering to make sure that we are pushing to sites that don't have really any malicious with it. We can always whitelist So for example, a lot of people use Calendly, an app for scheduling. That is not a part of our DNS filter, so I get an alert each time someone clicks on it. We whitelisted that, so we're saying, yeah, that's okay, we can go there. But we're really making sure that we have clean internet traffic, kind of to reduce that vulnerability. Cause in the words of Justin, we are the biggest vulnerability of the county. So he's trying to make us less able to open up that security threat.
Cool.
Email security, you may have noticed that when you scan something, it kind of rests in your inbox before it fully comes in and activates.
For
That's
years.
a part of it. Anytime you're gonna start,
Sorry.
yes, that week people are like, something's wrong with the scanners, Liz, and I'm like, no, just wait. Email security, really working on internal emails and external emails and creating an extra like flash if an email seems suspicious before someone goes and buys those gift cards. We are gonna roll out user security training and compliance training. So this is gonna be really fun for everybody, but we need to have these conversations and it needs to be fresh for people. Penetration testing. I can't wait for you to click on one and the extra training you'll have to go to, sir.
Pretty good at sniffing them out,
Yeah, bring it, competition.
yeah.
There will be a golden keyboard for penetration testing and email security.
Can we call it anything else?
They're gonna be very coveted.
Can we call it literally anything else?
The golden keyboard?
Penetration testing?
It's called pen testing.
I hate that.
Penetration testing.
Sorry,
Just
not
to try
gonna
to
lie.
get in.
I just fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, as long as there's a golden keyboard,
Low hanging fruit for inappropriate jokes.
like,
Through all of this, I think you may have kind of catch the tenet that I'm pulling out is we just don't know what's going on because we don't have a history. It's been kind of discoordinated and it's jumped from people to people and they've really left nothing behind. And so I think you've heard me say this before, but my goal is to leave this better for our great-great-grand employees, great-grand employees, and we're gonna do that through documentation. We are gonna be like, these are all of our access points, this is why they're located, where they're located, why they're set up this way, this is how you get into them. No one gave us that gift, that's the gift we will be giving. We are also working on dashboards and data. I think this is a really new avenue for IT to kind of support and explore. I would say this is the candy work for Justin and I, this is what we like to do, so it's the fun stuff. We've talked about the dashboards we wanna build for budgets. Yeah, it's happening in my head. But we need time and capacity to do that. Working on data cleanup and structure, making sure that the data systems that we use to populate are clean and correct. A data system that we got, Lauren was like, why is this person in here? And I was like, I have no idea, what a good point. Our data system's called this person Mary, and I'm like,
Who's that?
who dat? So we wanna make sure that we're feeding them correctly to get the outputs that we want to make smarter systems. Projects. We are working on collaborative workflows to increase efficiency with better digital tools. So you saw a front facing of what we're doing with our infancy of asset management. You've used the IT collection tool. We are really playing with that and making some wildly cool stuff that reduces the human time in small tasks that we don't need to do, so we can invest in those bigger tasks, think deeper, and really leverage the skills that we bring to Lake County.
You mean like getting columns to line up in Word documents?
I got robots for that now. So we are actively working in partnership with finance right now to do that. We are working on this like massive agenda setting workflow. It's gonna change the world. We are gonna have that in place by June 17th, and I'm super excited. We wanna work with HR with onboarding and offboarding to create flows and automations within there. Fleet management with public works, same thing. Permitting and licensing. When I came and talked about liquor licensing, Elsa was like, well, there's a gap in weirdness here. Sure is, we're gonna change the way we engage with those. And then we really also wanna work with a recreation program to see if we can, how to shift how they do things, how they communicate, and make a robot do it, but in a very tasteful, human-like way. Well, no, you sign up for curling. Hey Andy, I'm so glad you signed up for curling. Here's the schedule, here's the first meeting, and just,
I mean, that would be amazing. I would definitely give some props to our robot overlords
Oh
if they
my
could make
God.
signing up for curling easier.
yeah, so it does take a lot of thought and work to get these flows running and working, but these are the areas that we're really excited to dig into. So the final kind of 2025 project area is system unification. We have cameras across the county that are on different systems, we can't get into them. Yes, sir.
We do many things to reduce our risks
Yes.
involved with, our exposure in cybersecurity. Are there any things that we're doing that might increase our risks? So I see things like streamlining all of our cameras. So it's something that could add additional risks.
So anytime you create an access point and there's multiple users getting into it, you just triple fold your risks. But we also have those tools to combat it, like MFA, having making sure that our DNS filters are properly running, having a firewall. So we just try to create opportunities to balance it. But right now, we have a camera that only Bill Son from the ski shop can get into. Bill's ski shop?
Literally, for real?
I kid you not. So that's what I mean about just the small changes that are gonna have that big difference.
My camera is, never mind.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, you guys are,
We have about
Perfectly
15 types of
capable.
access points. We wanna unify them all over one system so we can control the internet from just our minds. Software licensing, pulling everything together under a single licensing structure so we know what we have. And then we're really wanting to work on internal communications, like room resource scheduling. We have some ideas to improve that, shared calendars and staff contact lists that will all be moved when we turn to the Google.
like someone's
Shade.
had sour grapes for lunch.
Alright,
I'm not sorry at all.
so now that you kind of know all of those big picture ideas that we're working on, let's look at the day-to-day. So since we launched our ticketing system, and granted I pulled this on Friday, we probably have about 10 to 15 more tickets. We've received 107 tickets between two humans and I count us like 1/16. I'm like, I'll change your password.
Wow.
So these are the areas that folks are presenting with that need a little bit of support. Software and applications, hardware are their two biggest. Tyler, that's software
I
too,
thought that
so
would
this
be a
could be
bigger
here.
slice.
Not everyone uses it.
Oh, I guess, okay,
Some people figured that worked.
This is just for the HR portal to put in your time.
okay.
And we recognized after about 3 days,
That is not all of Tyler, that is just people
No.
trying to input their hours to get paid
Yeah.
part of Tyler.
Oh, that's not,
no.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That is not sharing.
Yeah.
But the fact that we launched this ticket without this specific radial dial to select and we recognized pretty quickly that we need to add it,
Yeah.
tells you something.
Yeah.
Hardware and our software are our two biggest areas that we need to support our humans on the ground. And so when we talk about investing in IT and systems and hardware and people, because that's where we're going, that's how we can help all of our people, all of our staff really understand the tools that they're using so we can engage in deeper work, so we can get what we need done, so we're not sending emails to help desks.
And in like 10 years, hopefully that hardware would be far more reduced because we've got a stronger asset or
Yes.
stronger hardware management plan. Where you don't need to be spending as much people time on it, cause it's up to date.
If we can spend more time
Yeah.
with user training in all of our different areas, whether it's how to put in your time in the HR portal, whether it's how to do things in Gmail,
I'm honestly surprised that printing and scanning is not bigger because I feel like that's like why I go to IT. Cause of printing.
well,
I still can't find the right Rico.
Yeah.
I've only found Rico 3000, not whichever Rico I need that's supposed to
put in
be.
a ticket, we'll come help you. So with everything that we have going on, this breaks out to about 10 tickets per day for Sebastian and Justin.
Whoa.
And some of those tickets are small, dichotomous, yes, I can hook you up to the printer, yes, I can change your password. Some of those are like, oh no, can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredibly difficult, and this is something that I think we all struggle with, the work that you do for people, kind of in the background, and the work you do with people. When there's a live human, you stop what you're doing to support that. And it's really incredibly challenging, but they do a fantastic job. I'm super proud of them, and they're like, the boat is sinking and we're dumping out water as fast as we can. And I'm
Yeah.
like, just keep rowing.
Wow, that's a lot of time.
Could I add one thing?
Yeah.
Of not part of this presentation. I think this is really important to see. We know that retaining staff is really challenging and that we have some turnover. I think one of the big things that contributes to that turnover is to show up and feel like the system that you need to do your job doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that we're so strapped, there isn't someone to come get it fixed.
Yeah.
And that they only have so much bandwidth. That is a huge thing to feel like you have to come in and create the system to do your job, and people get burnt out over time and feel like, well, I can't even do what you're asking me to do
Mm-hmm.
because I'm already set up to fail. So I feel like this is a really big piece of us being able to retain and not have to retrain the same human that we lose over and over because they show up and feel like they can't do what you're asking them to do because we have
don't have the tools.
system limitations.
I can't wait to see the like month over month chart trend of how many tickets I've created.
Yeah, and it's
I can't wait
really,
to see that go down. For Justin and Sebastian.
I'd like it to go down, and that means that we are doing a great job, but this is the first time that we've been really able to measure other than emails and hey yous.
Yeah.
That other field is my favorite of what people put in. Sometimes it is really described in a category and they just don't know that language yet, but I want tickets to go down, and that comes with maturity of understanding our systems.
Yes. And investing in our systems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so going back to an earlier point, you know, if IT ends up taking everyone's software in our budget, we have more knowledge of it.
Yeah.
If you as a department go out and procure this software and don't ask IT questions till the end, we can't support you. You know, granted, you're the content expert of what you want from that tool, but we are really good at software,
Mm-hmm.
so. Alright, y'all, 2026 projects, basically, it's come on back. That's how we build capital, intellectual capital, that's how we employ people in Lake County, that's how we make a stronger IT program. So, right now, we only have IT specialists. Imagine a world where we have IT specialist 1 and 2. This creates opportunity for development, growth, and position advancement in IT. This is where we're gonna talk about where it costs a little bit more to save money in the end. So for the 2025 fiscal year, to a managed service provider, so Iron Edge, Technology West, Applied Tech, Astonish and Marmot, we're gonna give them $177,000 that leaves the county. We hire 2 people that live in the county, pay them $65,000 a year, which is higher end of,
No.
that is the highest end of IT support specialist 1. We wanna pay our IT people more, that's mid-range for a 2. It's gonna come out to $183,000. Excuse me, 169. Right here. But if we talk about MSPs and we just conservatively project that it grows by 3%, we're at 183, 188. And then if we start growing by 11%, that's when we start to see some real stuff. So 2 IT specialists is gonna be less than the managed service providers that we pay out right now. So it's just something to think about.
They're providing the same level of service? Or is there like specialty stuff that we're not, that like us IT2 wouldn't even have access to?
Well, this is our stuff. Applied Tech and Iron Edge just help us manage it, because we don't have the human capital to do it. We don't have a network administrator. I would say in the past 6 months, me, Justin, and Sebastian have learned a lot about network administration. This is where professional development comes into place.
Sure.
Go get your Cisco cert, go do this, I support you, I love you, I want you to learn these things, bring it back, we invest in you, you invest in us.
Sure.
So sometimes you can get people with those knowledge, skills, and abilities out of the box. I think we're gonna have to grow them in-house, but it's not something we can't do. Cybersecurity, for that really bad day, that will hopefully never happen, through insurance, we have a breach coach, it's part of CTSI, and we call them in the field position and say, please help. So for the really scary stuff, that tool's built in there. I think that we can go to a contract with Applied Tech, that it's maybe hourly, and it's really just for those bad days that it is completely out of our wheelhouse, or we just need someone to think about it.
So your proposal would be going to all in-house IT and then having like a retainer
Yeah.
potentially,
Yeah.
and then our CTSI support for when H's TF.
Yep, you got it.
Got it.
Something
Okay,
like
interesting.
that. I think we have to do it slow, we have to be successful, we're gonna have some overlap, but this is a very real future in 2 years. That we can be on a lower service from Applied Tech, but we have to have the people in-house to do it.
I mean, one of the tricks though about that, Liz, which I know you know, but like our employee pool, it's not robust
Yeah.
up here, even for like non-specialty stuff like IT.
Yep.
So, I wouldn't want to assume that employee pool exists in this county who could possibly continue with like a churning of that department. Even if it's a 5-year commitment, like that's a lot to expect to have 7,000 people.
It is,
You think it's there?
but like through knowledge management, I think we can do it. So what if you take an IT specialist, one that learns changing passwords, learns the AP systems, learns how our infrastructure is set up. They spend a year doing that with documentation, then the next year they do 2 different certs, then the next year they're having so much fun, they do their Java cert. I think that we can find people with aptitude, and I think that we culture it, I think we nurture it, and we provide all those opportunities to make an investment in our community that also serves the county. I worked at the college for 5 years, like, I know the potential for the type of humans we could find for these positions. They're not gonna be turnkey, but I don't think anyone walks into a role turnkey. So there is risk.
I'm just
But-
talking about the overall, I'm just talking about that bigger picture for our great grand
Employees,
employees,
they're so cute, aren't they? They look like us.
and I love them, and family meals. I'm just also trying to be realistic about it, having been in this county for a long time, and hiring has always been difficult.
So that's why we do a slow roll to be successful, and we start fully in pieces of the sheriff's office, and we see what that looks like.
Mhm.
We know that relationship is there, we know that he's interested, he's just scared right of that failure, cause if something in emergency services breaks,
Right.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think that they're getting the level of service for the cost, and I think that we can
Yeah.
really help with that. So,
That's very clear, that
Yep.
part. It's the only thing I'm saying, it's just kind of like, if you can have a firm that provides lots of different specialties.
Yeah.
That can, especially for a small community, that can be a real asset as opposed to trying to do everything in-house.
I agree with that, we can't get everything done, I do think that we can reduce,
Let's leave it.
yeah.
I love that idea. I love it.
But do you love Yellow Man saying, come on back, y'all?
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah.
I do wonder what he's asking them to come back to do.
He's come back to Lake County Government IT.
Do some labor. Come back and dig
Come
some
on back
holes.
now.
Yes,
Um,
we're gonna move this family file.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna dig
But-
some graves.
you, whoa,
That's what it looks like.
no, it doesn't.
A little bit.
Sorry, this was my Joy Friday
It's
afternoon of
really
me cackling.
cute. It's really cute.
So again, slow roll, you're gonna hear about it from us, from Heath. but I think this is the first time in a long time that Lake County government can have a program with a plan surrounding information technology.
Mhm.
We have the people and we have just a really genuine desire to make it better, and I know that we can, and I also know that we can expand appropriately with great caution and fear.
And potentially save money.
Yep.
Because that also needs to be realistic, is that in the coming years, potentially even shrinking this budget might be what happens. So I just want you to also be eyes wide open about that.
Yeah. It's something that I think about far too often. How do we get the best value
Yeah.
out of all of these different areas of the IT budget and still allow people to do their jobs, because we need these base tools.
Yeah.
Like, we have entered a time where we need internet to do our jobs. We do need a device that has enough processing power to do most of our job. But what we don't need is to give all of our money to a managed service provider.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. I hope you're
Thank you
excited.
for
Thank you,
presenting.
Liz, that was awesome.
I'm gonna ask for a 3-minute pause before we get on to. Back on, let's conclude, or not conclude, let's continue. Agenda item number 2 is discussion, hold on, pulling up. Overview, presentation, and final report of the Ohlson Lavoie Corporation feasibility study, led by Bob McDonald and his team at OLC Designs. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, thank you. And that's great. Mike Svets has just joined us as well. He's from Pros Consulting. So I'm a senior principal and architect at OLC, and so we have been working on this feasibility study for just over a year now. I think we started in April of last year, and so now we have just assembled final report and findings and recommendations, and are planning on delivering the actual feasibility study by the end of the day this Friday. We're compiling the final one. But what we have here today is like a slideshow presentation that we've developed as well, that will run through and give you an overview of the entire feasibility study and the results, and we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Okay, good. Now, do you have the presentation queued up, or do you want me to?
We got it.
Look in here. Oh. All right, looks like you got it. Okay. Excellent. So I'll go ahead and get started, and then I can definitely cue in Mike when it's his time to speak. So this first section of slides are something that actually your predecessors put together. If you want to go to the next slide. We had a community meeting back in October of 2024, and so they just kind of ran through some upfront issues, like just setting up the feasibility study, why we're doing it, things like that. So I think most of you probably know why we were doing it, so we can probably just gloss over this if you'd like, or just stop me and and ask questions if you have any. So let's go to the next slide. This one just kind of says what the current what's included in the budget, what does the county do now, kind of just educating the public on everything that you guys have going on and you're thinking about as the Board of County Commissioners. Next slide. This is what the county currently provides in terms of recreational opportunities through pros and other departments as well. So, lots of programs, lots of ways for the community to get involved in recreation within the county. So next slide. This is one that was, again, it was current as of October last year, so I don't know if any of these numbers might need to be updated as you move forward, but just giving an overview of what the current Lake County budget is and other things that are factors moving forward. Okay, next slide. Yeah, one thing that we had determined is that a single large community center is not feasible. So we started out, I think as you're aware, of having this sort of all-encompassing childcare facility, library, senior center, pool, indoor recreation, etc. And just to put all that programming in a single facility was cost prohibitive at about $88 million was our estimate. So we were directed to reduce the scope just to prioritize pool and some indoor recreation spaces. And then the library, senior center, childcare, et cetera, would be figured out under separate projects. And so that's what we did. Next slide. And this one is just stating that, yeah, a community rec center and the pool is attainable, but not currently within the existing county budget. In other words, there'd have to be additional funding to come in, through some needs. And we talked about what that would mean to do a sales tax increase later on in the presentation. Next slide. Okay, so now we get into kind of our presentation of the final report. So next slide. This is just about kind of where we are in the study. So we started off last year with the overview. Mike and his team at Pros did a market analysis of the entire county, the service area. We put that into a needs assessment process to see what kind of recreational and aquatic things might be lacking in the community. And then that led us to the programming phase, where we came up with the list of architectural spaces that would accommodate those needs that were identified in the previous phase. We also started looking at locations around the community and which site would be the best one to put it on. Once we discovered the best location in our minds, we did a master plan and kind of concept design that would fit on that site. We also did a cost estimate associated with that final design and location. And then Mike and his team also developed an operational pro forma or a business plan on what it would take to operate the facility. And then we've provided some funding evaluations as well as alternatives to tax increases. And now we are ready to submit our final report. Okay, next slide. And this will pretty much conclude our work under this current contract.
One moment there.
Okay, next slide. Yeah, so as part of our work on this, we did do some community surveys. And let's see, is Lance Timmons on the call?
I am, Bob.
All right. Well, so Lance and his team at Councilman Hunsaker they developed this survey that we had online. And so Lance, maybe I could just ask you to give us a brief overview of the survey and the results we got.
Yeah, happy to do so. And apologies, I'll have to keep my camera off for sake of maintaining good Wi-Fi. Um, but in synopsis here, there were 2 rounds of surveys, one in between June and July of last year, and a second survey that ran for about 2.5 weeks in November. Overall, there were a total of 368 unique contributions from 335 unique individuals that participated there. And actually, if you have your mobile devices, you can scan that dinosaur QR code and take a look at that web page as it is still active. The surveys, though, are of course closed. Next slide, please. So our key findings here in the first round of surveys was that the top aquatic amenities that our community members prioritized were multi-lane lap pools. They wanted some warm water areas, some deeper water, as well as a hot tub with preferred programs including swim lessons, water aerobics, and some senior aquatic programs and therapeutic uses for our aging community members. We get this pretty frequently in a lot of our surveys, concerns of facility costs, operational funding. But I have on the right-hand side of the slide here some pretty important bullets here. 88% of respondents believe that the number of indoor aquatic facilities in Lake County is inadequate, with 66 of those respondents saying that they've used the aquatic center prior to the closure or prior to its closure. And the most common reason for the remaining 33% not using the aquatic center more often was a lack of awareness, and they weren't really aware of the facility offerings. Next slide, please. And survey number 2 is where we really honed down some programs to choose from and actually had 5 separate questions related to sales tax increases that range from 0.56% to 0.98%, which with each sales tax increase allowing for a little bit larger of an option. We can see at a glance here at this table that option 4 actually had the highest support with an indoor pool and gym and full-size indoor turf field. So there's that strong demand for indoor aquatics, turf, and gym space. It's really reflected in this second survey period with a contrary basic option getting the least amount of support at that 43%. Next slide, please. We also held some stakeholder group feedback discussions on June 20th. I can't believe it's already been a year, or nearly a year. So if Bob and I were to take the hours of discussion and boil it down to 3 bullets, what we have here is there's certainly a highlighted lack of after-school programming and safe spaces for youth that was noted by our stakeholders. There was also support for a phased development approach in an effort to get, some, not all. Again, this was prior to the scope adjustment, and emphasis on creating a multi-generational community hub that serves teens, seniors, and children alike. Next slide, please. And Bob, do you want to take it from here? I think the remaining slides are...
Sure. Yeah, so here's just an overview of those 4 or 5 options, I should say, with some graphics that we had presented back in October. Again, they're kind of increasing in scope and cost as you move up. So next slide. the community did in general select this option number one, or I mean, number one. Option number 4 is preferred as the number 1 option. So this was the program that we moved forward with, including some recreation space like the cardio equipment and indoor running, walking track, some group exercise studios for yoga and other activities, having a gymnasium, and then also a larger aquatic space, include a child watch area, not a daycare, but just sort of a babysitting type area to watch the kids while you're using the rest of the center. And then, of course, you've got administrative, locker rooms, other support spaces. So the capital cost at that time was in that 30, or in today's, let's see, we're projecting forward to 2026. I should make that clear on the capital cost. So the overall project cost, we're anticipating to be in a range of 33.5 to $34.5 million. And that annual operating subsidy, as defined in the business plan, is around 500,000 a year. And then that projected annual visitation of around 20,000. I don't know, Mike, is there any update to those numbers, the visitation or the subsidy? I know you'll talk about that later in the business plan.
I don't have anything at this juncture. The only thing I will say is that as a lead into the overall conversation with regards to the pro forma, it is it's a projection right now. And the way we love to approach these is that once you actually get approval to start moving forward with the project through full design and then into construction, once you're kind of like 3 to 4, maybe even 5, 6 months into construction, you typically at that point, depending upon how you're bidding the project, whether it be all at once or if you're doing it as part of like bid packages along the way, we love the opportunity to revisit the pro forma with you, to really kind of dial it in. Because even if you got the go to move forward today, it's likely you're probably at least 18 months down the road before you would get to that point. And so we certainly would love to be able to revisit that with you. So that's a precursor to what Bob just said, but also my section coming up later on. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so next slide. We're gonna change course a little bit and move into the site selection portion of our work. So yeah, next slide. You will see that we've developed 4 different locations, all within the city limits of the city of Leadville. So and these are in no particular order. We just labeled them, I think, from north to south. Site number 1 is the Harrison Field site. Site number 2 was the Lake County Public Library. If you remember, it started out as a component of this study, so that became a site. Site number 3 is the Lake County Intermediate School, where the old pool is. And site number 4 is Community Field down by the turf, outdoor turf. So next slide. This is just a blow up of the Harrison Field site. And this work was done by our civil engineering partner on the project, Elevation Consulting. Let's see, Lincoln, are you on the line?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So Lincoln is on the line. Yeah, there he is. So if you have any questions about a particular site, we're happy to answer those. Let me just continue to run through the different options, and then we can talk about the one that's preferred and why it was selected. So next site, this is the Lake County Public Library site. You can see that this is the smallest of the sites that we reviewed. It's only 1 acre in size. And it was quickly determined that that really isn't big enough to support the kind of project that we were considering here. So this one was pretty quickly eliminated as an option. Site 3 was, of course, the Lake County Intermediate School. So we did take a tour of that facility and did some, just visual observations. We did get copies of all the different engineering reports and studies that the school district has had regarding that facility as well. Next slide. And finally, the community field site. And so we selected the area that's kind of to the west of the existing field turf area as an open space. And this one ended up being the preferred site for the purposes of this study. Next slide. So we did this through a couple of things. We talked about sites a lot during our stakeholder group meetings. We also, in an effort to be more impartial, and somewhat scientific about it, we ran through this site evaluation criteria. So this is just a part of the document, and I know you probably can't read it on the screen, but down on the left-hand side, there's a list of criteria that we looked at. All things ranging from the adequate size, proximity to other parks and rec features, proximity to the user groups, compatibility with the zoning or land use requirements, all the way to like stormwater and grading and soil conditions and things like that. And we essentially assigned a rating to each of the sites based on each of these criteria, a range from 0 to 10. And then we also applied a weight factor to those. You can see that. And those, again, the weight factors went from 0 to 10. So 10 being a more important criteria than, say, a less important one. So after running through this entire analysis, the results were pretty close between Community Field and the Harrison Field site. But Community Field did edge it out a little bit. The LCIS site then came in third, and then the library site, as I mentioned, it was pretty much too small to be used, so it came in last. Okay. So based on that selection and of the site, then we move forward with a concept design to figure out what this, how big the facility should be and what it might look like. So next slide. So you can see our site plan overlaid on top of the community field site. So the idea here is that we'd have a nice paved parking lot for this facility. It's a pretty regular L-shaped site with no internal planters, so easy to maintain and plow snow and things like that. The main entry is facing east and south, so that we're getting some as much sun as possible in the morning to try to keep the amount of snow buildup on that. And then we do have an outdoor patio that's facing south, and also a potential for an outdoor playground in that southeast corner as well. I might mention here that the site does slope, the grades slope down pretty steep the further you move to the west. And so that's why we've got the first floor of the building is at grade as you enter in. And then you'll see in the floor plans that the gymnasium is a lower below, it's a level down. So it the building is stepping down the hillside with the slope. Yeah, here's the floor plan. So the main entry is over on the right-hand side. You can see a vestibule. We've got a generous lobby. There's a kid watch immediately off of the lobby so that someone can quickly drop off their young child, and they can be in there for, say 1 hour, 2 hours, something like that, while the person is using the facility. Across the hall on the other side of the lobby is the administrative offices. There would be some kind of a check-in desk out there in the lobby as well, just to make sure everybody is, we're maintaining security and checking in everyone. And then again, on the right-hand side of the lobby or above the lobby is our group exercise studios. And they would be able to either function as one large group exercise studio, or we would have an operable partition where we could, kind of right there to cut it in half and function as two separate studios. And then across the hall on the bottom is our locker rooms. So these were anticipated to be, pretty small, but we would have a men's locker room, a women's locker room, and then several family changing rooms in there as well. And then we've also got some multi-purpose party rooms that are right off of the pools, perfect for birthday parties and other functions. Those would be for rentals. And then we've also included a sauna. That was some of the feedback we got in the public comments. And that opens out onto the pool deck as well. We've got some slides specifically about the pools later on, so I'm just gonna skip over the pool area for now. So right above the pools, on the other side is a rather large fitness area. We're just calling that fitness for now, but that would be a combination of your, cardio equipment, maybe some selectorized machine weights type things, dumbbells, a few kettlebells, things like that. Maybe a functional training area, some turf, things like that. Just a general workout or exercise area. That'll really help your membership numbers and decrease the subsidy. And then to the left, you would go out onto a walk jog track that would go around the double gymnasium that's below. Yeah. So that's all on the first floor. If you go to the next page, this is on the lower level. So you go down the stairs, and then you're on the basketball court, which would be we anticipated to be a wood athletic flooring, so you'd be able to play basketball, volleyball, pickleball, any kind of court sport like that. And great for day camps and all kinds of, athletics and leagues and things like that. Okay, next slide. So here we have more information about the pool design. So I'll turn it back over to Lance and have him walk us through these different options.
Thanks, Bob. So 3 aquatic concepts were developed as part of the study, and you'll notice at the top of the slide here it says community guided concept designs. We really took the feedback from our stakeholder group meetings, as we described earlier, and our various surveys to really narrow down what the right size the facility essentially with the results there, and that includes indoor aquatics, zero depth entry, lap lanes, some warm water areas, and of course that multi-generational programming, with all concepts emphasizing children's play areas, therapeutic spaces, and programming flexibility. I have a table that describes this in further detail, but while we have these images up, you can see 1 and 2. The concepts 1 and 2 vary in number of lane lines, or number of lanes, with one concept being 4 lanes and the other concept being 3, whereas concept 3 has the body of water all integrated into one. So there's we explored many pros and cons, and let's kind of dive into that. Do you mind jumping to the next slide? All right, so we selected option 2 here, and that is That includes a climbing wall, some water volleyball opportunities. Those teen-focused amenities were spoken at length over the course of the feasibility study. But of course, programming, as Mike will get into later, is pretty important as well. And the leisure pool being able to support toddlers and really that core instructional swim group for learn to swim and shallow toddler play areas, interactive water features, open water swim space, and of course the spa creates a nice versatile facility that is multi-generational and can host multiple user groups. Next slide, please. Yep, and this is where we have somewhat of a comparison here between the three options. The similarities there are the depth and the spa size for the most part, and some small variances in square footage, with option 3, of course, being under that larger square footage, but that one temperature. But overall, all concepts do integrate some green design features, but these happen behind the scenes, right? But it is worth mentioning that we've studied the variable frequency drives for energy savings, high efficiency motors, the more automation, the better, and of course, some media filtration that's more modern and a little bit more efficient there.
Okay,
Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Lance. Yeah, and so again, like Lance said, this was kind of a community-guided concept design for the exterior elevations. The feedback we got was to just keep it simple, straightforward. Want something highly functional and easy to maintain. So and keep it cost effective. So we do anticipate that this building will be more of a pre-engineered steel building, again, to keep that cost low. And so this reflects kind of the realities of a pre-engineered metal building. So with the metal siding, we can get some stone trim around the front entry to kind of accent that. And then just using some simple roof shapes, kind of that mountain aesthetic, shed the snow away from the walkways and things like that. Next slide. And again, you can see on that south elevation, we do have some glass looking into the pools, and then the grade slopes down as you go to the left, for sort of that walkout basement effect of the gymnasium. Of course, this all needs further study as well, just with solar angles and being aware of glare and things like that. We might end up with a lot of translucent panels, that will give out lots of daylight, but not have the kind of solar heat gain or solar loss or glare associated with traditional glass. So here's a 3D rendering of what the facility might look like. This is the main entry from the southeast as you would approach from the parking lot. Next slide. And then we've just got 4 more 3D views of what the facility might look like. Again, view of the entry from the northeast. And then as you kind of go around the building, there's a view from the northwest corner. You can see how it kind of steps down the site in the back there, over where the gymnasium, and then coming around the south side, you can see where the pool and the outdoor patio would be on that south side. Okay. All right, so next thing was then our cost estimate. So next slide, please. You can see this is just a summary of our opinion on the probable cost. So our building square footage turned out to be about 49,000 square feet. I know it was 47,000, but then there was also some square footage for all the mechanical units that would be kind of enclosed in upper level penthouse type space. So I added that in there to get to 49. It's really about 47,000 of usable square footage. So
Sorry.
Oh, can we go back real quick? Yeah. So we've included about a 15% contingency divided up between an owner, a contractor, and a design contingency. We've estimated all the project costs. So we've got fitness equipment, other furniture and equipment. Design fees are in there. That would include the soils reports and project management and all those kind of costs associated. So this is an all-in number of 33, just under 40 or 34 million. And then, because it is an estimate, we would really like to give you a realistic range of that 33.5 to 34.5 million dollars for the entire project. Okay, next slide. And now we'll turn it over to Mike to talk a little bit about the business plan.
Sounds good. All right. So Bob, next slide. So first we'll just talk about the overall methodology to this. First of all, I think we want to make sure that as we think through the development of a business plan, that it's rooted kind of in these four kind of key components. One is, what does the community want? What are the experiences that are most desired, which has been covered? And what are the standards by which you'll operate programs and maintain spaces? That's number two. Number three is the financial component. In particular, we're focused on the operational side for this. And then, of course, governance, organization, that's staffing levels that's required to manage the facility to meet the specific standards, as well as the goals associated with what the community wants, as well as the financial goals set by the county. Next slide. So quite simply, we want to kind of take into consideration when we think through the development of any project, the capital investment, the operations, and the life cycle. As part of this approach, we are going to typically focus on capital investment and operations and maintenance. However, a recommendation as you bid out the project is to get, as part of your bid packages back, projected life cycles or how long any one of the major assets that is going to make up your building. So roofing, lighting, HVAC, pool equipment, how long that is going to last. And then what is, of course, a projected replacement cost. This does not typically factor itself into the upfront capital investment side of the equation, but at least you go in eyes open with regards to what your short, your every year, which is operations and maintenance, and your long-term costs are associated with these facilities. It's important to recognize that hopefully by the time you get into life cycle replacement, you will have paid down the debt considerably, if not at all. And you can use a portion of the debt that the money that's coming in to pay off the construction of the facility to start to use it as a way to reinvest in the facility in the future. Certainly not at the same level or cost associated with the capital investment, but it is something that we do highly recommend. Next slide. In terms of just kind of the operations and maintenance costs, there's a little bit on the park or ground side of the equation, multi-gen center, and then of course that should say indoor pool. My apologies for not changing that one out, but we do want to consider the landscaping outside, but the multi-gen operations as well as then the indoor pool kind of looks at your total cost of operations. Next slide. Cost recovery is simply all that revenue that's generated divided by your expenditures will achieve your cost recovery percentage. One of the things that I think is important to recognize is we're always less focused on the actual percentage of cost recovery and what that actual dollar and cent annual subsidy needs to be in order to support the operations of the facility. Next slide. So of course, this is the floor plan that Bob just showed you. Next slide is where we gotta just want to set the stage for what the operations look like. So we are projecting about an 89-hour-a-week operation. Of course, this is subject to change, but Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturdays 8 to 5, Sundays noon to 5. Holiday hours, of course, have a way of changing the regular day in and day out, week in and week out schedule. You may end up having reduced hours, say on Christmas Eve and closed on Christmas Day. Same thing on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. But typically, you'll respond to those as part of responding to the community's demand and the cost of and their desire to utilize the building against the cost that it would take for you to staff and operate the building if it were to be open regular hours. Next slide. In terms of gymnasiums and aquatics, so this is important to recognize that your aquatic facilities and your gymnasiums will not be open all the exact same hours that your facility is open. And what I mean by this is you're not going to have somebody be able to just come in and do open swim or lap swimming at any given hour in which your building's open. You also may not have people be able to just walk in and play basketball or volleyball or pickleball because you may be running programs in those spaces. So typically you have operating hours scheduled specific to the gym and the pool that is different than your overall operating hours. And these may change monthly and or seasonally depending upon the programming. Next slide. In terms of kind of membership and daily admission, typically includes unlimited use of the center during all open recreation times, priority registration on most programs and classes so that you can add value to the membership and or pass structure, and then Child Watch, typically for children ages 2 to 12 is discounted for members of the rec center. And just to kind of clarify, when we talk about Child Watch, we're talking about babysitting. We're not talking about daycare or licensed childcare. It's usually where an adult is coming in to use the building. They have to remain in the building, and it's usually at most up to 2 hours of babysitting provided per child. Hours for Child Watch is typically posted separately and morning and evening hours are available. But again, this is all subject to the supply and the demand that your community has for that specific service. Next slide. In terms of projected full-time staffing levels, we're looking at 5 existing director, existing deputy director, existing recreation manager facilities, existing recreation manager for programs, and then adding a full-time aquatic specialist to run your pool, which will be open every hour that you're open. Next slide. In terms of the overall financial plan, next slide. This is kind of the projected membership packages and or fees. And I just wanted to make sure that folks recognize that there are differences based on a couple of 3 things, right? Whether or not somebody pays annually, in other words, they pay upfront one time for an annual membership, or if they choose to pay on a monthly basis. There's also differences between residents and non-resident fees. And this also can be seen then not just on the membership side, but also on the punch pass side. The reason that we don't have resident and non-resident fees associated with daily admissions is it's sometimes really difficult to prove residency for a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old that might be getting dropped off at the facility if they're able to come in on their own at the time. So where we kind of put the burden of proof on the resident is at the time that they were to buy a membership or a punch pass in which they're getting opportunities to visit the center multiple times, whereas a daily guest fee is set in such a way that doesn't create resident, non-resident, but you also price it in such a way that you're really trying to encourage people who are going to come frequently, are residents of the city and or county, to purchase a membership and or punch pass. So there is some dynamic pricing involved in terms of how you structure daily guest fees, as well as then how you actually price them. Next slide. In terms of just kind of the overall revenue, this is kind of what we're seeing, that passes are going to generate about 38% of, and passes and daily admission, about 38% of all the membership is all the revenue is generated by that. But then you have the different recreation programs, fitness programs, aquatic programs, facility rentals, childcare, concession vending. And then, of course, we've added in your $500,000 dedicated aquatic operations sales tax revenue into this to show the total amount of revenue to be generated. Next slide. And then this kind of gives you a breakdown of the operating budget, not just by service area, but also personnel, supplies, and other supplies. So as you can see, the vast majority of the membership, or shall we say the costs, are about 2/3 of it is personnel. I think just due to rounding, that doesn't add up to 100%, but it does, if you do the math all the way across, it does add up to 1.229 million. So long story short, and this is typical for facilities where about 2/3 of your operating budget is tied to personnel costs. And that includes Social Security, Meditax, any sort of benefit packages that you have for your full-time employees. Next slide.
Can we ask questions as we go?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Cool. Mike, I'm gonna go back a slide. Can you, what are people renting? What are people renting?
You have party rooms. You could have gymnasium rentals after hours. You can also have the pool rental as well. But I think the vast majority of this is going to be driven by the party rooms that you have available for people to rent associated with the aquatic facility.
Okay, so this is a huge number.
Yeah, you're giving me cause for pause here to make sure I've got that number correct.
Because when I think when I think of the
Extra zero.
when I think about the party rooms, there are two of those. That's about getting what, $250 every other day for those two rooms would get you to.
I have. So I think the way you have to look at this is if let me see here really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The party rooms. So the way I would look at the party rooms is, don't look at it in terms of you're only going to rent them one time per day. The way to look at these is to maximize your amount of time during open swim and put a limit on the amount of time, the hours around which somebody can rent the room. So typically, the way I would look at it is to say, I'll make this up, but let's say you have open swim from 12 to 5 on a Sunday. Well, I think you would rent a room from 12:30 to 2:30, and then you would rent it again from 3 to 5. So I think there's opportunities for significant amount of rental over the course of a summer and weekends and out of school, as long as you price it correctly. But you also have the ability to use that room, potentially every room, a rental, twice a day. For every room. So if you have 2 rooms, you're talking potentially 300-400 rentals that you can pop in there at any given point over the course of a year.
I hear ya, and I'm just saying I don't think that there are 300 to 400 kids in
Okay.
our county who would have a birthday party at the aquatic center and pay for an hour or two in the room. I'm just worried that that's like not actually appropriate for our county, like that doesn't actually, as
Okay.
somebody who managed events,
Yeah,
that does not seem close.
I can reduce that as well. I mean, I think the nice part about the number, the best way to say it is the nice part about that 82,000 number is even if we reduced it, say by 30 or 40,000, we cut it in half.
Yeah,
We're talking about a total of about $40,000. So maybe instead of 1.29 or 1.22 or 1.236, we might be
Yeah.
closer to 1.2 million, which might mean you're in a position of needing additional subsidy from either the sales tax or other revenue to make up that difference. But I can absolutely update that and get that back to you.
Thanks, Mike. I guess why I'm bringing it up is because if that one does not seem actually market rate for our county, I am really curious about the rest of them, because I don't have the background in like passes or rec programs, so I would love to know more right now about where you came up with these revenues.
So I did send the full pro forma to Duncan. So Duncan does have the full pro forma that details everything, and the business plan does detail that as well. And so I absolutely welcome the feedback and welcome a more in-depth conversation around the numbers, in particular around revenue, to make sure that we're kind of on that same page and that we have some consensus and agreement around the numbers.
Okay, if we could just Mike, let's just pause for a second. Candace,
Yes.
if this is supposed to be our moment to like really hear what's real, like where is Duncan and that information?
Duncan is gone this week.
Okay. Okay, and I know we're gonna have a presentation with like multiple boards in
Yeah.
2 weeks, but this is one of the things that I think will really need to be dug into if the various boards are gonna like know what actual numbers we're working with. Cause this is where the rubber meets the road, is how much money we could actually earn.
And as soon as do you remember when he gets back? Off the top of your head?
29th or 29th.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, Friday.
so I can definitely follow up with him and say, hey, we need your insight to this piece, but
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I don't see utilities and heating costs in here. Is it buried somewhere that's not called out?
I don't have it called out, but I have utilities in at about $200,000 annually for the utility budget. And that falls underneath the other services category here.
Okay.
Sorry, Mike, the reason at least I'm being really nitpicky about it is because this is such a big ask
It
from
is.
our community, and we need to be diligent, super diligent about understanding the numbers before we could ever try to move forward with it, so I appreciate you letting us pause.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly and welcome the opportunity to kind of I guess the best way to say it is work through it with you all. Let me pull up one specific number count that I think will help, is that you all have about 3,000 households in Lake County. And of almost 50% of those are families, based on the information that I've been able to glean through Esri and comparing that back to the U.S. Census. Let me just give you maybe a helpful understanding of some of the realistic numbers. So I have for the grand total of residents who are purchasing a pass. I have a grand total of 780 transactions taking place, whether that be a youth individual, an adult, or a family. And that equates to approximately about 26% of your county joining as a member. We're typically somewhere between 22 and 30% of your population as a total would participate would participate in terms of purchasing a membership. And so I'm just kind of giving you some maybe I don't know if that helps or doesn't help with regards to the ground truthing of some of the numbers. But I'm saying that in the sense that that's the kind of conversation that I would absolutely welcome to have with you all. So you kind of understand some of the methodology behind the numbers that go into a lot more depth than we're able to do here today.
Yeah, that would be awesome to talk about next time, another time.
Okay.
Imaginary time.
All right, so Bob, you can skip to the next slide, but the next slide is just kind of that overall summary, right? And it just kind of shows that we're looking at a projection out over 5 years. Again, more conversation to be had about the revenue and the expenditure side, which is in part why I sent it to Duncan ahead of time to get uh, for his comments on it, but also to almost tease it in such a way that says, hey, you know what? We really do need to have a conversation about this to make sure we're kind of on the same page.
So, sorry, just pausing again. You've got the dedicated aquatic operations sales tax highlighted.
Correct.
When you've got an increase in sales tax year over year, what is that? What kind of like market data?
It's a 3% increase.
Just like as just choosing a number?
Yeah, it's just it's a growth model that's plugged in there to say, hey, the revenue would typically grow at about 3% a year. Again, that's an assumption that we can have a conversation about that says, you know what, if 3% growth in your sales tax over year is too aggressive, should it be 1%? Should it be 2%? Or should it be a fraction thereof? But that is kind of the information that's baked into the actual narrative that kind of lays out the operational assumptions associated with the pro forma, associated with the numbers.
Okay, I'm about to have a sassy tone, but I acknowledge that it could just be from ignorance because you are the consultant. I don't understand how this is not just like a plug and play model versus actually looking at Lake County's sales tax history and projections that would inform this. So can you tell me, how is this not just plug and play? How is it specific to Lake County's sales?
The population numbers, the expenditure numbers are very much driven by number one, staffing and staffing levels that are required to manage the size of facility and spaces that you have, as well as then some of the costs associated with running those programs or what you pay people. So that information was provided by the county. So we took a lot of very specific information that the county provided on the expenditure side, and the amount of money, say that Duncan makes, or if it's a recreation deputy director makes, or something along those lines. We plugged in also the average part-time wages associated with that, with these kind of operations as well. So the expenditure stuff is absolutely very much driven by Lake County, what you pay people, the operations associated with the facility operating 89 hours a week, basically 52 weeks a year, and then equating that again to the spaces and places that are specific to the facility that is being proposed. That's the expenditure side. The revenue side, on the other hand, we do have to make some assumptions with regards to membership growth, or revenue growth. And so we never recommend that you keep your pricing the exact same year over year over year, especially in a county like yours where your population is not projected to grow. Because we know that expenses are going to increase as well. And so we try to make sure that we create a recommended growth model in terms of what you price things and how you price things to increase in commensurate with what your expenditure increases would be as well. And so if you would typically say that you would give people 2 to 3% cost of living increases over the course of year over year, or that supply and material and commodity increases are going to be 3%, then we want to make sure that we have, for example, your revenue growth to match that as well. Pretty much everything, with the exception of your sales tax, is what you choose to price things at. In other words, what you're going to say a membership cost is going to be, or a program cost is going to be, or a rental fee is going to be. And so we have to make sure that we keep that up. If the sales tax is going to not increase at 3% a year, then that is something that we obviously have to have a conversation about. But it's also in part why I did send the information ahead of time, to get some sort of comment before we presented the final report.
Got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
It all looks correct, and I understand the methodology between increases, you're increasing your revenue and making sure that you're keeping your expenditures increasing at a conservative rate. It was really just the dedicated sales tax that I think we're trying to be more conservative about, and if you sent this information ahead, hoping to get more feedback to inform the final presentation, then that makes a lot of sense that you didn't get feedback to inform that line.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, if as I said, if we need to go into it in more in depth, I'm absolutely welcome to do that, because we need to get this right for you up front. So as you consider the project, you feel very comfortable with that, as I said, that total cost of ownership. But again, you do move forward with the project. Please know that we are here to revisit all of this with you as you realize what the construction project is actually going to end up being. Because going from concept to actual construction, there's potentially those kind of changes. And we're also going to have to revisit it based on whatever economic conditions exist at that point as well. And so that is why I always welcome the opportunity not just to have an in-depth conversation at this time, but also to really revisit it as you start to put pencil to paper regarding your operational budgets as you start to construct the facility.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Very welcome. So Bob, I think that probably covers my stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so next I wanted to talk a little bit about the funding opportunities. So I think that's the next slide where we start. Yeah. And so as we start talking about a different funding besides a tax increase, everyone always talks about, well, are there any grants available for facilities like this? Are there any, other kind of opportunities to get money? And the answer is yes, there is, but the answer is also that they are highly competitive. I mean, there's every other community within the state and within the country that's applying for all of the grants that are available. There's the lottery funds. Well, those are typically dedicated to outdoor use and outdoor recreation. So if we were doing an outdoor pool, then I would say, yeah, that's a great opportunity to get, maybe $500,000 or something like that to use for a pay for a water slide or something like that. But the reality is that you typically don't get those grants, aren't successful with indoor projects like this. So uh, the reality is that a tax increase of some kind is typically what is used to fund these kind of projects. And as we talked about the option between a property tax versus sales tax, people are very sensitive about raising property taxes. And the community in Lake County is no different. That's not unique. We find that everywhere. So we determined that a sales tax increase is probably the best route to go. These are the numbers that the county supplied us with for our presentation back in October. And again, like some of the other things, we did not have the chance to update these numbers yet, with the final cost estimate being more like 34 million. And then also that operational subsidy being now at 500,000. So this slide, I think, needs to be updated, and I can certainly, work with Lauren and her team to get those numbers updated now that we have all of these costs associated with it. So, and then that will tell you pretty much what the percentage of an increase that you're going to have to make in order to fund this project. So we'll do that before we print the final.
Hey Bob, is there a reason that the interest rates on this look really low as well? Is that just something that has been updated, or do giant capital projects like this generally have different interest rates than what's standard?
Yeah, again, this slide was generated by someone from the county. I assume like your financial accountant side.
It was not for me.
So this is from Stiefel, Alan Metzloff, he's our bond counsel. Yeah. We asked him to pull these numbers with his best estimation about what the interest rate would be and what that cost would be for sales tax, so he backed into these numbers for us.
Got it.
When we went through the the 4 options in October.
Cause we'd be up like 6.5 or 7 by, in today's.
Yeah, this is from last year.
Okay.
So we want those updated to possible.
Yeah, and so then just a note about, a timeline and other things to consider about moving forward. There's a potential sales tax ballot initiative in November. And then bonds, and it passes, it's successful, then complete the bonds about this time, or well, February, March of next year. And then get under construction in March of 2027, and potentially open a year later.
Cool.
So, any other questions? I think that's all we have for today.
When you say potentially longer with a renovation project, and we're building from the ground up in this scenario, why did we add renovation project? If something got built wrong and we needed to rebuild it, or?
No, actually, this was back when we were still considering the LCIS facility. So yeah, I should probably edit that. That's a good point. Thank you for pointing that out. We'll take that off of there.
Thank you so much, Bob and Mike and everyone. Can we just talk about a sales tax really quick? Sales tax, like, while we think about it going to visitors, we have the largest gap between what something costs and what somebody's paid in the entire state. So when we do sales taxes, it actually burdens our everyday citizens
Yeah, it's not without-
significantly.
Yeah,
So I just wanna acknowledge that I also know that property taxes are really hit a lot of our vulnerable, fixed income folks, but we also have a unique county where sales tax, it can be equally detrimental. Just wanna say that out loud, cause I haven't heard that as part of any of these conversations about taxing, and sometimes when we think of sales tax, we think that it's like the easiest way to get help from
it's easiest-
visitors,
Easiest to market, like, but I don't think,
but
I don't think it's without, real world implications, an
Yeah.
extra buck out of your pocket every time you go to Safeway pretty much. Or
Right.
more,
right,
gas pump.
okay. Is there more, Bob, or is that?
So
No, that is it. We were all done, and so open it up for questions for you. I know it's a lot, and this is the first time that you're seeing it, so probably need some time to just process at this point.
Well, I have to say I'm really grateful for all of the information that goes into this. I feel like we have, even if we don't have the answers that we'll need immediately right now, we know that we'll be able to get the information from this group. And I really am grateful for that, because the whole pool conversation in general in this community can be very much like pieces, and this feels very holistic when it comes to the cost. So I appreciate that. How can we get the pro forma? Can that, or do you think Duncan has made any notes? Should we wait to get it from Duncan, or can we ask for it from this group?
So I think they would have the pro forma to send us, but I also emailed them while we were
I'll
here.
send it to you.
Yeah,
Okay, well, just in case he had already made notes on it, I didn't wanna
Yeah.
duplicate his work. That's what I meant. Lauren, you've been in so many of these conversations, anything you wanna add to this presentation, or what we could be thinking about?
No, I think the estimated cost for the building is as you said, very holistic, like it includes landscaping and permits and excavate, like basically soft costs, hard costs, and so I feel pretty confident in that number. We're not going beyond probably 34.5 million. But yeah.
It was weird to me that we'd be building a big paved parking lot next to a parking lot.
What do you
There's
mean?
already a giant parking area right there.
It's not paved.
There's, just thinking about
Yeah.
where extra costs that would be like, where can we start trimming to bring numbers down if this is,
Sure.
something we were going to entertain the thought of.
Yeah.
Where do you start cutting back?
Sure, yeah.
I know a big discussion was cutting out the gym, which I think our pro staff felt pretty strongly about the need for an additional gym, both for a space for our kids and then also additional programming. So that's definitely gonna cost us around 4 million plus adding that.
When you think about the quality of our other gyms that we could be potentially selling.
Yeah.
To make up for that.
Yeah.
Like a brand new gym is just more valuable than what we have right now. And when we look at what the community potentially would want, the gym is in there pretty strongly.
Yeah.
So it'd be more likely to pass at the ballot if it had that versus if it didn't.
What's the long range estimation, full lifespan of a building like this, these big commercial metal buildings? is it like 50 years, 60 years, 100 years?
Bob, can you
No.
answer that?
Yeah, well, the reality of the pre-engineered metal buildings themselves is that they aren't as long lasting as your, traditional construction of, steel and things. So, I would say it's probably more of a 25 to 30 year type building until you would need some potentially significant improvements, such as like, replacement of the entire metal roof, maybe the wall panels, things like that. They're designed to just deflect more. And so they move a little bit more and the screws kind of become a little bit loose and things start to, over time, it just doesn't last as long. So that is something that we talked about that during the consideration because it probably saves you, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but maybe 10 to 15% on the cost of the structure if you go with a metal building rather than traditional construction.
Yeah, but that's not like a full scrape. That's
That's
being
just
able
a
to
siding and a
start
roof.
doing large,
Yeah.
large maintenance. And I can't
Yeah.
remember where it is, but you had that built in so that year over year you would be building in your asset management of that building over its lifetime. Where is that?
Yeah, Mike had that in his as part
In
of
the,
the pro forma was a can you have a like a capital replacement fund in there somewhere, Mike? Or
I did, so that is not something that I did include as part of this. As I said before, one of the things that I think people have a tendency to do when they decide on a funding strategy is to not sunset that funding strategy, but use it as a potential way to reinvest as a funding strategy to reinvest in the facility so that you're not using user fees, which are not significant sources of that kind of revenue anyway, but you're not using user fees to set aside money from a capital replacement. So let's just say, for example, we said, you know what, we're going to set aside 5% of our revenues annually into a capital fund. Well, 5% of your overall revenues, taking your sales tax out of play, is uh, really pretty small potatoes. $37,000 a year. That's not going to get you very far in terms of being able to create a quote unquote capital replacement fund. So again, that's why I strongly consider on the front end to understand what those replacement costs, when the window opens for those replacement costs, major replacement costs to occur, and then to start to plan for that as part of your overall funding strategy. You can probably get that information. Bob, I would imagine you could probably get that information at the time that you're ready to do construction documents. Because you'll have a pretty good understanding of what it is that you're putting out to bid in that perspective.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just because I think you guys will face this, so just acknowledging there's like another alternative option within our community about renovating LCIS.
Oh yeah.
Michael, can you talk through from like a revenue and expenditure perspective, right? The biggest cost recoupment for our revenues is passes. From everything you all have told me is the main driver in passes is going to be the recreation part of it, the weights, the people working out in the morning before they go to work.
Yep.
Can you walk us through like what this would look like if it was just a pool with staffing and then also recoupment? Like what would that look like? just so we have an understanding.
That's interesting. If it were just a pool per se, your costs are kind of what they are, right? You're probably gonna, have to increase your overall budget. It won't just be $350,000 because you still have to have people that manage the building, maintenance, and so on and so forth. But hold on one quick second here. I actually just recently did a project. Just see if I can pull this up really quickly because it's a very, why I'm saying let me refer to another project. It's a very similar kind of pool layout. Um, and it's a very similar, like it's Teton Valley, Idaho. So it's it's also very remote as well. Let me see really quickly. Um,
How close is
They were really, really aggressive with regards to the expenditures. They were really aggressive, and they were at it's probably about an $800,000 a year operation. And in terms of the revenue, you're probably looking in the neighborhood of uh, probably about half of that, maybe $300,000 to $400,000 in revenue, between memberships, passes, as well as programs and rentals. So, you're probably $300,000 to $400,000 in revenue, 800 to $1 million in terms of expenditures.
Wow. That's a lot.
Those are expensive. That's the thing that when you're looking at these specific numbers, when you look at the aquatic operation expenditure line item, that is just like staff, lifeguards, instructors, program fees. There's nothing like specific for utilities or customer service or maintenance baked into that number. So that's where we would have to go back and say, okay, well, if it was just a pool, what would your full-time employee costs look like? What would your utility costs look like? What would your maintenance costs look like? We would have to extrapolate a lot of that information. But I'm, just kind of looking at it based on having done these, it's probably 800,000 in terms of your total operational costs, and probably 300,000, maybe up to 400,000 in terms of revenue. But again, it all depends on the kind of pool you build. You might choose to build a more extravagant pool than what you're doing as part of a current, recreation center that has a pool with it.
Mike, when you in the revenues on the pro forma, I understand where the passes are coming from. Thank you for explaining that. How do you separate out though if this is like is the fitness and aquatics and rec programs, like how are those all
So
separated out?
fitness is tied to a group exercise schedule, right?
Okay.
And so we worked with the county staff to say, these are the programs that we would run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we basically said, okay, well, we're going to have a minimum number of, I don't remember what I actually, hold on one second. Let me see if I can pull it up. But we had a minimum number of people that would participate in every class. And that minimum number was, hold on one second. We had a minimum number of 8 people participating in a class. But over the course of a year, based on the number of, and we were charging $5 per class. And so that's how you get to this. The spin classes generated $10,000 in revenue. The classes generated $10,000 in revenue. a Pilates class would generate $6,000 in revenue over the course of a year. But we had listed 9 different types of programs, and this does not include like personal training appointments of maybe 125 total over the course of a year. So the recreation programs are primarily programs that you're running in your gymnasium, and it's gymnastics, volleyball, youth volleyball, indoor soccer, indoor pickleball, a lot of programs that you're actually already running right now. It's just that we're adding more sessions to them because it will be your gymnasium, right? And you'll have the ability to run more programs yourself based on the type of gymnasium that you'll be able to put in there. And then the aquatics programs are really learn to swim classes and water fitness classes. Those are like the 2 drivers. And I think we mentioned like 50 total learn to swim programs, with 8 up to 8 people per program. So it would generate like $20,000. And the one thing that we talk about when we think about like learn to swim programs is kids, it's a progressive series of lessons. So you start out at level 1, you might end up to level 3, or you may have to repeat level 1. And so that is in that full detailed revenue model that is in the spreadsheet that I sent to Duncan, as well as in the overall business, the overall report that Bob provided.
Cool. So I'm seeing the recreation program revenues versus the rec program expenditures. Same with the fitness program revenue versus expenditures. They're pretty close, except for the fitness. We're making more money. Is that pretty much just paying for staff to do it and some administrative costs for the sign up? Or can you just give us that since Duncan's not here? Can you just tell us?
Yeah, it's more or less, I think I have about a $7,700 profit on that. And it's primarily staff.
Yeah, cool.
It's primarily staff to run programs that would be managed by your recreation person, by your it could be your deputy director, it could be your facilities or your manager that runs programs.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome. But I'm happy. I'm not trying to make more work for Bob, but I'm more than happy to say, hey, you know what? If you lopped off your all the dry side, with the exception of obviously your locker rooms and your party rooms and your front desk and your lobby and all of that stuff, I could probably go in and run a pro forma on something like that if you wanted me to. I'm happy to kind of take a stab at that. The past stuff would be changed significantly though. But we can have that conversation if you at the time you want to.
Andy. Thanks, Mike. Give us a second. It's up to Andy, he's chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering if you could talk to when you were choosing the different sites and you mentioned that LCIS was number 3, because we know there's 2 ideas for the pool versus new versus renovation. Can you help us understand why you decided to not go the route of renovating LCIS?
Yeah, I believe, one big barrier to entry there was that it's not owned by the county right now. It's a school district property, and so just the being able to acquire that facility so that the county owns is just a big hurdle. Would be expensive. There's a lot of realities associated with trying to renovate a facility or a building of that age, with potential asbestos or other hazardous materials that need to be mitigated. And then even if you did do that, just to renovate the aquatics area, that pool itself it's not, it doesn't have the attraction of the zero depth entry kind of a family aquatic environment that it was desired in the county. You know, there's just not enough space in there to keep the fitness recreation aspect and then add a zero depth entry type amenity. You could do that in an addition, I suppose. But then again, you're still dealing with an older facility that's not as energy efficient. You pretty much have to replace all of the mechanical HVAC equipment and the ductwork and everything like that. So I think the number one reason was just on just cost, that you'd be putting a lot of additional money into an older building that would not be as, you know, as nice of an experience, or I think you know, be as easy to maintain and in the long term for the county.
I think another component of that is, after some meetings lately, it was we couldn't just take possession of the building and renovate just the pool area. We would have to do the entire building and bring everything up to code, which adds pretty significantly to the rehab costs of that.
This is not an option anyway, the school district doesn't wanna sell it. Okay, thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I'm driving, but I'm just curious.
Those,
I'm glad there's a contingency built in.
those, possible expansions, was there any conversations around what that looks like or what anyone thought about? With
Hi, Lauren.
those to the west?
Like if we did a phased approach?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we talked about not doing the gym at the beginning and adding the gym later. Also, if we wanted to dome community field or what we could do with community field if we wanted to do an indoor turf.
mhm.
Also why we selected or like moved on with this site. But they definitely did try and talk,
Here.
future expansion right there.
There'd be a turf
Um,
field.
That is all county land.
It would be a covered curling facility.
Potentially.
You'd want it on this side, Andy.
Yeah, right.
Skiers are-
I ain't stepping on the rodeo grounds toes though.
No, not right there.
There you go.
Very fun.
I am curious about the phased, you know, idea of like adding the gym. How much adding a gym later, you know, like if the cost of entry is a lot lower, then we could be a little more slower about jumping into the deep end.
There's no deep end, dude.
Then what do the cost differences look like if we don't have, because we've got Sixth Street Gym, which is half of what we've got right there, you know? There's a deep end.
There is a deep end, 12 foot.
I'm just saying, no diving board doesn't count.
There, I mean, now that we're looking at the pool, I do have to speak for like the kids who wanna get rad, and I don't see climbing walls or big crazy like
There's a climbing
obstacles
wall.
or
They built that
rope swings for flips, no old school diving board that actually has springs, nothing dangerous. I want danger, I need
So
excitement.
there is some
There is.
stuff, I don't know, Lance, if you can talk about the amenities for kind of that
Sorry, it's
teenager
just-
group.
It's in here.
Andy, you talked about danger, one thing that they didn't mention, I think the cost of your liability insurance is gonna go up significantly.
I know,
Worth it.
yes, yes.
Worth it.
Worth every penny. If it gets, you know, middle school, high school age kids excited and gives them something to do, that's worth it to me.
For
I
sure.
don't want those kids sitting at home glued to a screen and getting bored and in trouble and,
I like talking myself off a diving board.
yeah, the scary ones, you know?
Yeah.
Slide 29 would
Thank
be
you.
the slide to reference here, and I will say this is the first call I've heard where I want spring diving boards and more danger.
Well,
As you can
that
see, we try and shy away from that, or at least come up with alternatives that are a bit more safe. So this slide pretty much sums it up, where we have a climbing wall on that southeast end or southwest end. Water volleyball. You can see the net kind of vaguely on the
oh, no.
eastern end of the lap lanes. Um, with the depth sloping from the water volleyball area to the western side to accommodate for a climbing wall.
Okay.
Whereas the leisure pool, is more so for the kids and toddlers. The lap pool would most likely be primarily used for that teen group that is seeking out the danger there.
Why are you putting a climbing wall in the pool area?
Why a climbing wall in the pool area?
Yeah, instead of the general recreation area.
So you can fall into the water.
Yeah, it's
You don't need ropes.
Really freaking
yeah, they're
dangerous.
called.
We had one here.
We had one
What?
here.
We had a climbing wall in the pool here.
Really? Well, it's really dangerous. I've built climbing walls and I've used climbing walls, and if they land wrong,
There.
Oh,
if
that'll
they're not
learn
on
you.
a rope and not on a belay or something,
Um,
and they hit the water wrong, it's like hitting concrete.
I think I've seen it at most modern, recreation
Yeah.
aquatic centers have a climbing wall in the pool.
Never seen one. I've seen other stuff.
Silverthorne's got one, we had one here, I think Avon has one, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty standard.
It's a very common amenity. It's a pre-manufactured unit, that's made specifically for the aquatic environment and to go on the edge of the pool deck. And
It wasn't that tall, as I remember.
yeah, it's called an Aqua Climb is the brand name.
They're cool.
And to look it up.
So I add a little danger.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's really exciting. Can you imagine? We might get a rock. Thanks everybody, thanks Chris, Chris.
We share a rock?
Yeah, we can share a rock. How do I see is somebody like making chat?
Does sound like that.
Doesn't it sound like chat is
Uh-huh.
happening? I just want to see chat.
Did you hit escape to get the floating controls back?
Escape. Oh, thank you. Okay, no chat.
Would we have to, it's.
I made it.
I see user conflict with, the teenage amenities and the lane pool in one shot, it seems.
You can close this though. This is your
Oh.
area, so you can still have
I see,
lap lanes
okay.
open. Nobody's gonna play volleyball, it's all good.
Yeah, that seems kinda outdated.
Maybe volleyball's having a comeback.
Maybe, yeah, I don't have a crystal ball.
Maybe someday the expansion could be for this imaginary pool. Maybe someday we could expand into a slide.
Expand the danger zone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Now that Casa Bonita's open again, there's a real professional career choice.
High dives,
Okay.
high altitude high dive training facility, yeah.
You could slide from here into the Wow, I don't know what else do we wanna talk about?
This
These folks, man.
seems so far, big, out of reach kind of thing. This is,
Does we gotta get another sales tax up and running and try and get it passed, and I don't know if we got the buy-in from the community. Why are you guys shaking your heads?
With this economy, I think timing is everything. And this community was extremely fortunate that the mill levy override was passed for the schools and that the aquatics fund sales tax was passed in 2024. Unless the economy turns around, I don't see anybody voting for any tax increases. And that's just a opinion. I'm a street vendor, not an economist.
That's reality.
We would have to go to the voters regardless of what we do.
Yeah, we have to do something.
yeah. I guess it's just just let the people decide.
Yeah.
That would be the truth of it. The parking lot thing still trips me up.
We're not done parking lot yet.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. It's gone. This parking lot's gone.
Okay, thanks.
I shared this information with Jane a year or so ago, and I'm not saying this is what Leadville or Lake County should do. I spent a lot of summers in Red Lodge, Montana, which is south of Billings a little ways. It's almost identical to Leadville. Old mining town, you can see mining shafts from Main Street. Ski area, you can see ski runs from Main Street. US highway runs right down the middle of town, 2,500 people.
Hello.
They just, 2 years ago, opened up a brand new swimming pool. It's an outdoor pool. It's open Memorial Day and Labor Day. They built it with donations, it cost them $2 million. Now, I'm not saying that's what Lake County should do, because they close their pool on cold days, and sometimes in July it's closed, sometimes in August it's closed. It's zero entry, it's heated, it's got diving wells, it's got swim lanes, kiddie pool. They redid their whole bathhouse area and all that kind of stuff. It's a really nice facility, but obviously they don't have it in the winter. But it only cost them $2 million, and they paid for it with donations.
Well, yeah, that's lovely. It definitely doesn't serve the indoor recreation needs that we're hoping to attain, but that's a really cool idea. I don't have any other questions. Do you guys?
No.
Bob and team, thank you so much for your presentation. This is really thorough.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to work on the project. I personally enjoyed it quite a bit. We'll continue to refine this just a little bit, make sure we get these numbers correct and so that everyone's in agreement with it, and then we'll get you the final report and go from there.
Awesome, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you all, take care.
Thanks, folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay, 3:45 will conclude this work session, Lake County and Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.